Welcome to OK Smartass. This is the show where we put technology under the microscope. In this episode, I want to play video games against brain cells in a jar, but I am scared I might lose. An Iron Man suit may be on the shopping list, and imagining dragons makes me run faster. Now time to look at what's happening in technology, innovation, and the gadgets that make our lives so much more exciting. Hi, I'm Patrick Bonello.
And I'm Tor Roxburgh. I'm a writer and a reader and someone who loves change and future-focused thinking. Patrick, I'm more interested in writing faster than running faster, but more about choosing the right soundtrack.
Well, I'm a journalist and I have a marketing and graphic design business, and I've come to the shocking realisation that you have appalling taste in music.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is ridiculous.
Well, look, okay, so evidently some studies have found that the playlist that you use whilst you're training, say, running, can actually improve your performance.
Yes.
Right,
yes.
and so you asked me, who do you listen to when you're training or when you're running? And I listened to a band called Imagine Dragons, and you looked at me blankly. And I'm appalled. I've seen them in concert twice. They're on so many soundtracks. Really? I'm going to have to force you to listen to my favourite band.
Are you going to make me a playlist then?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, on a cassette.
Oh, a cassette? That's how you made friendships back in the day, isn't it?
I'd have to not just give you the cassette, but I'd have to give you a cassette player, wouldn't I?
Yes.
I'm committed. I'm making you a cassette. I'm going to give you a cassette, and I'm going to give you a playlist to listen to. How's that?
Yeah, so Imagining Dragons, it's a band, yes? And
Imagine Dragons.
Imagine Dragons,
yep.
Okay, so, well, do you know about Wet Leg?
Look, it sounds like a really embarrassing moment at school when you're in front of the assembly and you're so scared.
All right, okay, so we might have to swap some music, yeah. Look, when
Wait, stop. Wet what?
Well, it's kind of a punk band.
Okay. Yeah. So that's your favourite music at the moment?
At the moment, but look, it changes weekly. I'm not like you, stuck on Imagine
Wait a minute. I'm not stuck on Imagine Dragons. You asked me the playlist I like to listen to that improves my performance.
Oh, right.
And that improves my performance.
Well, look, Patrick, when I saw this story and I saw the list of songs, which all have the word run in them.
Well, they pretty well do, except
the last one.
Yep.
So the last one was Waterfalls by TLC, but everything else...
Hey, that's your band.
No.
Wet Leg. What? No? Oh, okay.
Good, but no.
Yeah. Well, okay, so a playlist has been developed by a scientist who says that...
Costas Karageorgis.
Yes, who says that your performance can be enhanced and improved on if you've got the right playlist playing in the background.
Yeah. And he also says, which is quite interesting, that, you would naturally think that the fastest beat would make you run the fastest, but no, that's not actually the case. You've got to get the right rhythm for the right performance.
Right.
And apparently, he's gone through more than 100 journal articles and come up with this list. So,
you know what I don't understand? Right, he went through 100 journals, and at no point in his research did it actually click that just by having the word run in your song it basically makes it a good running song.
I thought maybe there's a bit of a gap between what the research reported and what the article reported in the popular news. I thought maybe he's not, because it's too much of a coincidence. It couldn't be that.
He did 25 years of research, right? And he got 26 research grants.
Yeah.
How cool is that? I mean, if I could convince someone 26 times over 25 years to give me money to listen to music and it would make me run faster.
There you go.
Yeah.
I find sound really interesting in relation to performance, and I use a particular service, an app called Brain FM, when I'm writing, because when you're writing, I don't know how you find this, Patrick, when you're working, but I can't write very well when I'm listening to lyrics.
So I'm the same.
Yeah. And so in the past, I've experimented using Spotify's lo-fi playlists, which are kind of, they're non-intrusive sounds, quite mellow, quite quiet. But Brain FM is even better. So
What are the sounds? Now, this is amazing because you showed me some brain scans and the visual representation, the brain scans showed much more brain activity listening to this service that you use.
Well, it's designed sound, and they do test it against placebo, so they are doing scientific tests with it. And you're meant to have...
Wait a minute, I thought a placebo is just a drug that you take that isn't the drug. What are you doing? What's a placebo music?
Yes, I don't know, Patrick. Well, that's a really good question. Maybe a similar sounding sound that's not designed with the same parameters, I don't know.
Okay.
And you listen to it quite low, so it's not a big volume, and it aids concentration. And
Wow.
I mean, it might be, in fact, the placebo effect, but I find it works really well.
Look, I used to run a lot, but I started having problems with my knee, so I stopped running, but I discovered an elliptical trainer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with elliptical trainer. So
Yes.
it's like you're running uphill or upstairs, but it supports the leg movement so there's no impact, and your arms are also moving as well. So that's my form of cardio where I'm doing the equivalent of running. And when I do listen to music that gets me motivated, and I mentioned Imagine Dragons, a bit of Linkin Park also works well as well.
Yes, I've heard of...
Yes, oh good, thank
Yes.
goodness. So that sort of music, I find my performance is better. I actually run harder, and I feel I can run harder and have better capacity in my running.
Okay.
So
It's not just that you're enjoying it more. You're looking at the numbers, are you?
I do. I have kind of referenced it because I listen to a lot of audio books as well.
Right.
So if I'm listening to an audio book, I'm just running. But when I go hard, it's like go hard or go home.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
So it's great. I've got to say the other thing, even though most of the songs that came up in the list, Running on Sunshine, Running with the Night by Ronald.
They're very old.
I know.
Yeah.
Run Baby Run by Sheryl
Yeah.
Crow, Run
Yeah.
to You, Bryan Adams, or everything by Vangelis, evidently. Like everything by Vangelis. I love Vangelis. The Friends of Mr. Cairo was a great album, and I also, being a Blade Runner fan, they did the whole soundtrack to Blade Runner. But I can't imagine that I could run to that, though.
Oh.
No, it's
Yeah.
not the type of stuff. Yeah, I ran So Far Away, Flock of Seagulls, Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen. Look, you know what? The brain is an amazing thing.
Yes, yes.
And I'm slightly scared and frightened and also intrigued by this story.
Dish brain.
Dish brain. Well,
And it's not just that you've been at the sink for too long looking after children in the house.
right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's not that. Okay, so brain cells put into some sort of petri dish have been taught to play Pong in an experiment they think will help with research into dementia and epilepsy. So they cultured the cells and somehow...
Well, they're on a computer chip.
Yes.
Yes.
But 500,000 brain cells, not just one or two. It's a whole colony of brain cells. But somehow they managed to get them, and actually no, it was 800,000 brain cells, and they managed, this is a Melbourne-led team of scientists.
Yeah, cortical labs.
Yeah, and they have worked out a way to perform goal-directed tasks.
Yeah, which is no easy feat because there's no dopamine present, so there's no pleasure and pain for training the cells to do what you want. Also, you might worry about pleasure and pain.
Oh, that ethically, yeah,
Yes.
I'm not sure if I... Yeah.
So it's not been easy, but they've worked out how to do it. Apparently, the brain cells in the dish don't like unpredictability in the environment, and they've used that predisposition to train them
to be able to play
to
Pong.
play Pong.
Yeah. Now people, I'm sure everyone knows what Pong is.
Yeah, just remind us, it's the ball coming down and the bat.
Yeah, just two bats. It's the
Yeah.
very, very first computer game. So you've got these bats on either side and a ball. So it's a rudimentary kind of table tennis
Yeah.
type game where the ball just bounces and you move the bat up or down to hit the ball to your opponent. Very, very simple.
And the beauty of this, assuming that they're not suffering these neurons, and I guess we can think they're probably not. I mean, it's... Yeah.
Well, they're culturing from basic cells.
Yes.
So it's not like there's an entity. It's not an animal. It's not a thinking
exactly.
kind of functioning
Yes.
set of cells.
And it means, just like when we talked about the lung on the chip in the past,
Yeah.
it means that you don't need to experiment on animals, and you're experimenting on the actual material that you want to have an impact on. It's not just a model, an animal model.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. You know, I guess we've almost solved every illness in mice and rats, but it doesn't always translate across to humans. And we don't like the idea of killing so many animals. So if you can actually use the cells from the animal, in this case the human being, and they're the ones you want to experiment on, this is a great way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got an allied story, but before we do that, I just have to say, Patrick, I'm feeling self-conscious because this is our second time that we're videoing the podcast, and the first time I realised I was slouching.
Oh, really? Because you edit. Yeah, so that's one thing we're doing now. We're doing, not only are we doing the podcast, but we're doing a vodcast as well.
Yes.
And Tor very kindly have been publishing it on
OK,
YouTube.
Smartass YouTube.
Yeah, so this is going to be a bit interesting. I guess people get to look at us, turning around and looking at each other.
I know, and my mother, who was a physiotherapist, always said, sit up straight.
Oh, and evidently maybe it's just the chair.
It could be the chair, I don't know, but you've got better posture than me.
But I didn't dress
your
for it.
Stripes are...
Yeah, I've got conflicting stripes and colours, so sorry to anybody who decides to watch this. I didn't get dressed accordingly. However, Tor's wearing a really lovely daisy necklace.
Yes.
There's another kind of look into, I guess, research that is related to
brains,
neuropsychiatric disorder malfunction.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have to help me on this one.
Okay, so this is where they're making chimeric rats.
Yeah, so that's creepy as well.
Yeah, so they're
Hybrid.
putting human neurons
into
rats' brains. Those neurons are fully integrating, like the blood supply is joined up, and they're doing scans to test that the human neurons are actually working. So they trained the rat to take a drink. They got a drink when the human neurons were firing. So they were able to see that there was a connection between the rat's external sensory whiskers and things like that and the human neurons. And again, this is a way to study human brains without digging into humans.
Well, we are digging into rats.
I know. What do you think, Patrick?
I don't like it. I want brains on chips grown from one single cell. I'm happy to donate as many brain cells as they like. I don't drink that much, so I think I'll be fine. No, I get that. I really uncomfortable with using animals for experimentation, and that I struggle with. I understand why, but I have a problem with animals being used in this way.
Exactly. It does feel very creepy. There's also a worry, like, are the rats becoming human? Like, are they taking on
human traits?
Well, apparently not. There's been a literature overview, and there doesn't seem to be...
Done by the rats or by the humans? Sorry.
Yes, okay.
Right, just checking. They might have got quite clever in that time.
Exactly. Now, anyone who likes reading a bit of science fiction and likes thinking about what it would be like to mix up human tissue with something else, not a cyborg, because a cyborg is where you're putting a mechanical element into a person.
And we'll be talking about that later in the show, kind of.
Yeah. So book recommendation, All Systems Read by Martha Wells. It's really funny and tender and full of action and fighting, and it's great.
I need to write a list of all the stuff you speak about in terms of your reading, because you read some awesome books.
I read a lot of rubbish too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I haven't written anything yet, though.
Okay, so what about an AI tool that can scan your retina and see whether you've got heart problems?
It's interesting. Iridology has been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, probably thousands of years, and that's where people would look at your eye and try to diagnose illnesses. I actually had iridology done on me years ago.
Is it like one of those non-scientific things, or is there some basis for it? I don't
Well,
know.
this
It
could be
sounds-
proof of it. So
Yeah,
what they're
maybe.
using is they're saying that they basically use a special camera to look at your iris and look at your eye, and in 60 seconds or less, it can diagnose potentially whether you've got a risk of heart disease.
That's amazing, isn't
It
it?
is. So a lot does
And
show up in
blood
your eyes.
pressure as well.
Yeah.
And for people like you who don't like going to the doctor to have your blood pressure taken.
No, I get white coat hypertension.
Yes.
So that means basically the second that I walk into a doctor's surgery and they put a cuff on my arm,
You go,
I panic. I do. Well, the thing is, more often than not, they'll be halfway through and I'm thinking, oh, I'm holding my breath. No, seriously, I don't know why I do that. I mean, I'm a logical person, and yet as soon as I sit down in a doctor's surgery and they put a
How
cuff
funny.
on, I start to freak out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a difficult one. Whereas with this, it's non-invasive. They can just look at your eye, and we know that there are very, very delicate blood vessels in the back of your eye, and they can be a precursor to hypertension or something that's going to be, a
Heart attack or stroke.
potential.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the ways you can actually look to see if there's damage to the back of the eye, which is then a hint that there's real problems.
It's going to be amazing. It's fantastic. I think I've said before on the podcast, one time worn that cardiac halter overnight.
Oh, I know. They're awful, aren't they?
Yeah. So this is so much better.
I almost strangled myself with one of those. I woke up and the thing was around my neck and I had my one arm over the top of me. It was awful. I was taking notes because I use my Pixel phone to take notes. There's a great thing called Recorder, and not only does it record what you say, which means it transcribes as well. So if I think of something in the middle of the night and I was doing a podcast...
Another bit of genius.
Yeah, well, I was interviewing a guy who was looking at quantum computing. And so I got invited onto the U Project, a show that we do regularly, and which we're doing later today.
Yeah.
And Craig invited me on because he wanted someone to ask intelligent questions, and I thought, God, have you just scraped the bottom of the barrel? But it was interesting, in preparing for that, I woke up at about 3 a.m. and wanted to take some notes because I thought of some things to ask. But I didn't want to wake up and take out a piece of paper, so I used this electronic device, and I just basically hit recorder. It transcribes everything, but it also records the audio. So you've got the audio wave plus a transcription. So it's easy to take notes. I love it. I left it on.
Oh.
I forgot, and I left it on all night. And then the next morning, I was running through. Evidently, I do go through phases of a bit of loud, not quite snoring. There's a little bit of snoring in there, and a bit of, I don't know what I was saying, but I tend to talk in my sleep.
Oh my God.
I'm going to have to do this more often because I reckon I must have
What
conversations.
did it say?
Well, it didn't really. It was kind of mumbles and things, but it's interesting, isn't it, to record yourself while you're sleeping. And the good thing is because you've got the audio wave as well as the audio, it tries to work out what you've said. So I'm going to go back through and do a few more.
Text, I
know. It's really fun.
Snoring.
There you go. Yeah. So that's what I used. But no, this is great. I think this sort of science research that can help people in such an easy way, but also because it's transportable. It's non-invasive, so there's no drugs.
And when you go, presumably they'll integrate it with the optometrist. So when you go and have your eyes checked.
Yeah, they'll be able to check for all those things as well. It's exciting. Stanford has made robotic boots that will enhance your mobility.
You and I both
I
want
love this.
don't
I
we?
want this. I want this so much. It's just on the way to Iron Man, isn't it?
Well, I don't think about Iron Man. I
Don't you?
think about Sigourney Weaver in Alien.
Yes.
Yeah.
With the exoskeleton when she's walking around battling the alien.
Yeah.
So go back and watch this. This was it the first film or the second film?
The
It was
first,
Aliens. Oh no, it was the second. Oh, was it?
Well, okay.
Oh man, I'm
We
thinking it
don't
was the
know.
second. I think it's the second.
Really?
I think we might have to quiz our listeners.
Okay.
Yep. I thought it was the second.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we could have a bet. What can we bet? I say it's aliens. You say it's alien.
Okay.
I think it's aliens.
Okay, we could bet a trip to the movies. We could go to the cinema.
And the other person shouts.
Yeah.
Perfect. Done.
All right.
All right. We'll check that for the next episode.
Now, just think about why I liked Alien. Well, why I liked the exoskeleton that Sigourney Weaver was wearing. I mean, my little feminist heart beat harder because I thought, okay, the physical advantage of men is over. And so maybe it is over in reality.
Oh, so okay. So maybe let's just talk about what's been developed.
Yes, yes, I'm
sorry,
getting
I'm
ahead
a bit
of
of a tangent
myself.
there.
Okay.
So what's been developed is enhanced technology to put more spring, literally spring in your step. So
Yeah.
you're using less energy to walk faster and for a longer period
Yeah.
as well. So they're kind of boots that it's not actually. I know we got onto a tangent of Sigourney Weaver, but it was actually more about the fact that
Yes.
they're being used, potentially could be used for people who might have
Pain and
pain.
problems. Yep.
Exactly. So you might have issues where you have knee joint pain, and this will take the pressure off your knees and allow you to be more mobile. Balance, I thought, was really interesting. I've got a friend of mine who's got Parkinson's, and she's struggling at the moment with balance. And so these potential leg enhancements could mean that she could walk around more freely and have less chance of tripping.
Yes, possibly. I can see the downside immediately, and
Yeah.
you know, well, it will make us lazy, and doing less work
Look, I get that.
in the skeletal-muscular sense might not be healthy.
Well, the thing is that it's only by a small percentage. So you get enhancement.
Is it?
I thought it was about 18% enhancement, or 17%.
17%,
okay,
that's significant.
so you can walk 9% faster
Yeah.
with 17% less energy, but you're still using energy. So what I'm getting at is it's not like you're using a mobility scooter and just sitting down all day long. This is still walking. So it means that people may, in fact, walk longer than they normally would. Because if you think about it, if you've got a degenerative muscle disease and you're then confined to a wheelchair, then you can't walk at all. Whereas this may help you walk longer.
I think we have to take people with a disease or a disability out of the equation, because clearly it's great for them. I don't see any downside.
So you're talking about
I'm
lazy
talking
me.
about lazy.
Wait. No, wait a minute. See, I don't agree, because may I just talk this one through?
Yeah.
If I could walk faster and for longer, I would walk further. So I'd still be using the same amount of energy, but it would get me further there and faster.
But you're not normal, Patrick. I say that, everyone, because Patrick gets up at what time in the morning?
5:30-ish.
And what do? Then you go and exercise.
I go to the gym and then I walk my dog.
Yeah, come on. No one else does that.
And I stand up at my desk all day now
Yes,
as well.
yes.
Am I a bit unusual?
Extremely unusual, I would have thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I go for walks most days. I rejoined the gym, which we laughed about before, because I rejoined and didn't go. I've been once.
But at least there's intent.
Yes, I'm not sure.
Join me at the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. We can train together. How's that?
Maybe.
That's a no, isn't it? That's not a maybe.
I might
that's a
have
no.
to kind of psych myself up.
But you used to go to the gym early in the
I
morning.
did.
Yeah, I remember seeing you there.
Yeah, I have to get the head right.
Okay, in the right headspace. Well,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting leg enhancement technology.
Okay.
Because I think it means when I go
You're going
touring,
to use it responsibly.
I'm going to use it responsibly, because when I was in Malta, my best day of walking, I did 26.4 kilometres. Right. Now, the good thing is I could then do 36 kilometres and it would take me less time. And I would have used the same amount of energy. That's my theory.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, phones. I was appalled by this study or this research where we found out that, this is coming out of Popular Science, people will throw away 5.3 billion phones this year.
And there's gold and silver in those phones.
Them there hills, yeah. I know, the problem is harvesting those materials, so to speak, isn't it? I guess, look, I understand that it's hard to do that, and I'm going to confess that I probably, if you said to me, how many phones have you got sitting around your house, I would probably have to say maybe 9 or 10 if I started looking around.
Well, I've got about 5, so that doesn't surprise me.
And they're not all working.
Yeah.
And they're all just sitting around in drawers. Even in my office at the moment, I could count 1, 2, 3, at least 4 mobile phones in my office.
But I think that the headline of this article is slightly misleading. It makes you think we're talking about phones, but we're talking about electronic devices.
Yep.
And apparently, on average, we have 74 electronic devices around the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you've got to think toasters that might have a chip in them, oven well, ovens, you're not going to have more than one, but all sorts of bits and pieces. 13 of those are being hoarded.
Really?
Yeah.
As in they're just
As
sitting
in,
there.
you're not using it anymore, but, it's on the shelf.
You could probably add a 0 to that for me.
I think so.
Okay, so 5.3 billion mobile phones are going to be thrown away this year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've always argued that we should hold on to our mobile phones longer than we do, and that there is an active system in place that is encouraging waste. Okay, now what I mean by that is our big phone providers here in Australia, I know that Telstra started a deal a few years ago. They're our number one phone provider where you sign up for 24 months, but every year you get a new phone.
Wow.
So it's encouraging people to get rid of their phone for the same amount, same plan, and it's a way to keep them signed up with the provider. So it's become an incentivized system. Apple, every year a new phone comes out. I've been looking at the new Pixel phone. Now, I'm not going to buy it. I'm really impressed with it, really impressed with the camera. I love the camera on the Pixel because they've just done so much. And even with my Pixel 6, what I loved about it was they put a lot of emphasis on people taking photos of those of colour and accurately representing skin tones. It was a really interesting marketing campaign. A lot of research went into it, legitimate research that used photographers who specialised in taking photos of people of colour. So they released a phone and they said, this is going to more accurately represent people of colour. I love that concept. It made me feel warm and fuzzy, and I was able to sell my old phone to you and buy a new one.
Yes.
Okay, but normally I generally would buy second-hand phones, so I wait until the next year when people are getting rid of their old phones and buy the old phone, and then try to hold on to it for, say, 2 or 3 years if I can.
Look, for me, the difficulty is that I routinely drop my phone and break the screen. And
I've never broken a screen, ever.
My God, really?
Ever. I've had a little tiny chip once in the corner, but I've never broken a screen.
And with the Pixel phone, I took it to a repairer to try and get a new screen, and no, they didn't do them.
No, the right to repair is something, thankfully, the EU has pushed really hard for, and now a lot of companies, laptops, phones, are now going to be easier to repair by third party. So that is good, and hopefully that'll drop the price of those phones, and it means that people will be able to hold on to their phones longer. But are we in such a disposable society? I'm posing the question, do we get used to getting a new phone every year?
Oh, yeah, I guess we do. Sometimes it's wanting to have the latest exciting thing, and sometimes it's, faults with the phone.
Yeah.
Having trouble getting it repaired, or the repair costing almost as much as a new phone, which obviously then the incentive to repair is not there.
Yeah, that's a good point. Interestingly, I love, and I just happened to mention Pixel because one of the things with the new Pixel phone is that they have a lot more recycled materials in them, and I think that's a good thing if phone manufacturers are thinking that way. The watch straps, the new Pixel watch, 100% recycled yarn in the watch bands. That's pretty cool. I mean, I didn't deliberately choose this car because it has recycled material in it, but my car does have a high percentage of recycled material inside the car, so that's kind of cool. So the plastics are recycled, and I think that's a really good incentive. So I guess if car manufacturers and phone manufacturers are starting to use recycled, and I think the Google said that it had used recycled aluminium that makes up 11% of the product based on weight.
Yeah.
That's got to be a good step in the right direction. And if people think to get that, or do they? An Apple fanboy is always going to be an Apple fanboy.
No, and I don't think they should have to think about it. I think the point is that there should be systemic incentives to make that happen. But then I'm in favour of government and regulation.
I agree.
I'm sure that there are people who think, I'm crazy. But I think those systemic levers work better than relying on consumers remembering, in addition to, the benefits they think they're getting, the price, the allure of the brand. I mean, those are not very good levers for getting systemic change.
No, it's got to be incentivised from a government level.
I think so.
And maybe saying to a company, if you use recycled materials, we will give you tax breaks, that sort of stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yes, because then there's a market for all those recycling people making all the little plastic beads and things like that out of rubbish. Like, if they don't have anywhere to sell it, then
what's the point doing it?
What's the point?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, I had to have a bit of a chuckle. Now, in my phone, I've got crash detection.
Yeah.
And this is only a new feature that's rolled out in the latest iPhones, except there's a problem.
Oh, what?
when people have been using them, they've gone on roller coasters. Their phones in the United States have been dialing 911.
Oh, no. Oh, you can imagine the first responders would go, not again.
Really? Another person on a roller coaster? Yeah, this is a report in the Wall Street Journal that was then re-reported on The Verge. And, the new iPhone 14 and the Watch Series 8 and SE and Ultra, they're all equipped with devices, like we've got gyroscopes built into them and sensors and high-G accelerators, and I guess it's the high-G accelerators that have done this.
So what would you do? You'd almost have to ask people, like, turn your phone off before you get on the roller coaster.
Yeah, you would have to, because...
And, of course, not everyone would.
No, well, not while you're screaming and yelling at the same time. You get caught up in the moment of being so excited. And, well, some people, I guess, would use their phones to take photo and video as well. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I'd be doing a selfie if I was on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, look, you can see me vomiting in slow motion.
I don't like. Do you like roller coasters?
No. When I was in Canada, the first trip to Canada, my sister-in-law took me to this amazing place called the Badlands between Calgary and Edmonton. We were on our way to Edmonton. I just threw the Badlands in there because it sounds so cool.
It does sound
And there's
cool.
also the Tyrrell Museum of Dinosaurs because there's an Albertosaurus, and I wanted to see the Albertosaurus. Anyway, that's just totally aside. So I went to the largest shopping mall in the world at the time, and the West Ed Mall, and on top of the West Ed Mall is a theme park. This is a bit of advice. Don't go onto a ride called the Mind Bender unless you really like roller coasters. So we're going down the Mind Bender, pulling so many Gs that when I turned to look at my sister-in-law, my head was stuck in one direction and I couldn't turn my head back. Don't laugh.
Seriously?
Yeah, I know. The G-forces were so hard, I turned around and then couldn't get my head back.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, my God, it was awful. And I was so sick. I got so nauseous that I was sick all afternoon from being on this roller coaster.
Look, I don't even like the ghost train. So.
Oh, my God. What? I love the ghost train. Look, in Australia, or in Victoria, we've got the Mad Mouse. Do you remember the Mad Mouse at the Royal Melbourne Show?
No, I don't.
Yeah, so...
The Mad Mouse.
The Mad Mouse. So I love the Mad Mouse and I love the Scenic Railway. So they're fun. They're more passive roller coaster rides. But you don't like ghost trains because ghost trains are awesome.
I found them too scary as a
That's
kid.
what they're for. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, but I didn't like being scared.
I went into a house of wax once with my friends.
Okay.
We'd wagged
like
School.
Madame Tussauds?
No, it was just the Royal Melbourne Show.
Because I went to Madame Tussauds and I had nightmares for months afterwards about this murderer who stained his skin with walnut juice and could dislocate his jaw.
Oh my God! Wow, I'm actually scared just hearing that.
Yeah.
So I love that you pronounced it correctly too, because a lot of people call it Madame Tussauds, don't they?
Oh,
but it's Tussauds.
I don't know.
It is Tussauds.
Oh,
yeah.
that was just luck.
It was. No, so I totally lost track. No, I went to a waxworks display where they had murderers and people doing gruesome stuff as waxwork dolls or waxwork people. And as I was walking through with my friends, we saw an animatronic one where the hand just moved up and down. I thought, wow, that's really cool. So we all were focusing in. Well, it was a guy and he jumped up out and jumped and yelled and we screamed our heads off.
God.
We would have been maybe 13 or 14.
Yeah.
And they totally had us fooled. So some guy sitting there pretending to be an animatronic model, and it wasn't. It was real. Yeah. Crapped ourselves. Absolutely. What was that band you liked again?
Wet Leg.
Thank you. I'm not going to go any further. Hey, Google, we were talking about the Pixel, and I know I'm a bit of a Google fanboy because I do like the Pixel phone. I love my Pixel phone.
And you also care a lot about accessibility, don't you?
I do, and this is really important to me because I know I'm going on a tangent. I've been involved with the Australian Open Tennis for now nearly 14 years. We're about to get ready for a year 14.
Patrick does tennis radio?
I do, yeah, the Australian Open radio. So I do the infrastructure side of it. I don't call the tennis because I'm hopeless with tennis. I shouldn't admit that, should I? Yeah, I've been going for 14 years. Don't even know the right end of a ball or the racket or whatever. But one of the things we've done is we've worked with Vision Australia Radio to be able to, because our commentary is so descriptive that it opens up the audience. Right. But we've also been working with a team of researchers that are working on a project called Action Audio, where the balls are tracked in real time during a match and sound effects are played. So if the ball's hit as a backhand, it makes a certain sound effect. If it goes to the left or the right, it's stereoscopic sound.
Right.
And so what it does is it gives people who are vision impaired an ability to visualize the entire court and not just visualize what's happening, but where the ball is moving relative. And so when I saw this story, I thought this is really cool. One of the new features that's coming out with the Google Pixel phone is a voice will tell you where to hold the phone if you're vision impaired to be able to take photographs. Now, you laughed at me when I said, why would a blind person want to take a photograph? Is that an accurate summation?
I did, and I'm feeling shame now.
Good.
Shame.
Well, because the thing is, if you're vision impaired, I see that there's two reasons this would be really useful. One, if you may be lost and you want to call a friend and say, look, this is where I am, give me directions or help. The other thing could be potentially you want to take a selfie of where you are. I don't want to be denied the opportunity to brag about me standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. So I could do a selfie of me in the right position, and the phone will tell the vision impaired person
higher, tilt it forward.
Yep. It's called guided frames, and it's a voice coach to help users hold their phones in order for them to be able to take selfies. How good is that?
Now, Patrick, we were talking earlier about hoarding old phones.
Yep.
Well, maybe you're on the right track with your...
This is mind-blowing. Mind you, so one of the original unopened Apple iPhones from 2007 has just sold at auction for 65 times its original price. It went for $40,000 US.
God.
40,000.
I really want to know all about the person who kept it in its box unused.
Who does that? Well, an investor. Like someone sat down and said, right, well, because a lot of collectors, I mean, I don't know if I should admit this.
Yeah.
I have some collectible Star Wars figurines. You know when they re-released the Star Wars? Not the New Hope. No, they're unopened. So when they redid the whole Star Wars franchise, they had these action figurines that were similar to the original ones, but they had chips inside them and and you could put it up to the chip and it would make the sound of R2-D2.
So you've got the new ones?
Yeah, but they're still going back, 30 years?
Yeah,
no,
I've
20
got
years.
really bad news for you. There's a podcast, I think it was done by Freakonomics, I'm not sure, about the whole economy of figurines and the...
Yeah. Right, and?
Nah, there's too many.
They're
it
unopened,
only works when
but they're unopened.
I'll see if I can find it for you, and we'll see if
it's a bit like the Playboy without the pages stuck together.
So the original iPhone was the Time Magazine Invention of the Year. That was in 2007.
And so it should have been too.
Yeah, and I thought that really dates it though, Time Magazine. That feels like nothing now, doesn't it?
What?
Yeah, except Donald Trump's very excited about Time Magazine because he was on the cover one year.
Oh, I like Time Magazine.
Do you?
I used to collect Time Magazine. I had a subscription.
I think it's all old.
Oh,
yeah.
I mean, I don't have it anymore, so that probably is passé.
I mean, maybe I'm just having a go because my brother was the editor of Time Australia.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Did you? What? Okay, let's.
He's old.
What have you subscribed to that you regretted subscribing to?
Oh, nothing. I've never been a subscriber until recently, and currently I subscribe to New Scientist and Wired for the sake of the podcast.
Yep.
And I'm really enjoying New Scientist. Wired doesn't come as frequently in physical form, and I'm really enjoying getting the New Scientist physical magazines.
Okay, so when I moved out of home, I travelled around a bit. So I lived on the sand dunes at Ocean Grove in a tent for 3 months. That was the first residence. Right? But so it got better from there.
Yes, okay.
But at the same time...
Would you call yourself homeless at that point?
No, I had a home. It was a tent, but I had a home. No, I wasn't homeless.
Insecure.
No, I wasn't insecure. Oh, really?
Okay.
Don't pass judgment.
All right.
I did tell a friend, though, that when at first, my precursor to moving out of home was buying a caravan when I was 16 and moving it into the backyard. And someone turned to me and said, I knew you were trailer trash. I thought, what? So 3 years I lived in a caravan, then I moved to a tent. It was an upgrade. So anyway, getting back to, totally unrelated, but getting back to the story at hand, I subscribed to the collection of the original Star Trek series on VHS. Right. So, but
course you
because
did.
I was moving around a lot,
Yeah.
I was having them delivered to the family home.
Oh,
Now, I moved out first.
Oh.
So my twin brother
got
would
the
open
benefit.
them. Well, because the thing is, they were addressed to P. Bonello.
Oh.
His name is Paul. My
Yeah,
name's Patrick.
yeah.
So he, under the guise of, I thought it was for me.
Yeah.
It was obvious it wasn't for him. It was
Yeah.
Time Magazine video Star Trek series emblazoned all
Yeah.
over it.
Yeah.
But he'd say, oh, it must have been for me. He'd open it up. And then he'd read my mail or whatever. He used to do that all the time. And anyway, so he used to watch them first.
Yes.
And then I felt, well, it's been sullied now because it's already been watched.
Yeah. Well, look, Patrick, we're nearly at the end, but I think we should talk about these robotic bees.
Isn't this interesting? Robotic bees, because this is a real concern.
Called Polly, as in
that's cute, isn't it? I
pollinator.
like that. I thought it was
Yeah.
cute. So the interesting part about this story is that there are big concerns in parts of the world of bee populations on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've come up with robotic bees that are not only behave themselves,
Yes.
they are more efficient.
Yeah.
So they could be really good.
Yeah. So this is Israel.
Yep.
Araga, a startup based in Israel. And I think calling them bees is a little misleading because it's a ground-based robot and it goes along, it captures images of, they work on tomatoes, of tomato flowers, and the AI recognises when the flower is ready for pollination, and then it sends sound wave pulses that kind of agitate the flower sufficiently to drop the pollen.
Yep.
It's interesting, isn't it?
I wonder what music they play.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking there's some pretty, Back on Black or, some really good AC/DC
Yeah.
would be great to help in the pollination process.
Yeah. We often have stories from Israel. Their tech and particularly their biotech is really exciting.
And I'm always impressed at how you actually do research for this podcast because you then had a graph reproduced of all of the different countries by GDP and how much of a percentage they use in tech research.
Yeah, well, R&D.
R&D, right,
Yeah.
okay, yep.
And Israel is number one.
Wow, so 4.9% of its gross domestic product
Goes on research and development.
Wow.
So it's not an accident that they're really doing fabulous work in all sorts of areas. I mean, Australia's not terrible. My image cut off before we got to Australia, but they're what would you say, Patrick? They're behind. They're about maybe the 22nd, 23rd, at 1.8% of GDP compared to Israel 4.9.
Does that mean we're behind third world countries?
No, look, I think we're not doing too badly, but I think it would be in our interest to spend more. The top ones are Israel, then South Korea, then Taiwan, then Sweden, then Japan, then Germany, then Austria, then the United States. So those countries, you think about those first few countries, they're the ones that are really doing exciting technologically advanced manufacturing.
It's interesting when you put a dollar figure to it, though, because this is billions of dollars in US dollars, and the US is spending $612 billion.
They're the top spender.
Exactly. So not by GDP, by percentage, but by overall, the
in
US,
actual money spent.
that's a staggering amount, isn't it?
It
Because Israel spends $16 billion, America spends $612 billion.
Yes.
So
it's really significant.
it is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, can we finish off with one story that I thought was... You're trying to pull... You're going to gag me, aren't you?
Come on, Patrick.
One more story, please.
Quickly.
Okay, one more story. I like this because we often think about robotics and robots as being somewhat threatening. Lots of science fiction has made us all very careful and worry, and this is worrisome, and particularly because we've also seen how drones can be used realistically in real world situations.
Weaponized robots.
Yes,
aren't they?
they are effectively. However, we talk a lot about Boston Dynamics, and I love their robots. I personally am a big fan of Boston Dynamics, and they have set up a consortium of companies. 5 robot companies have now signed a pledge that they're going to stop the adoption of robots by the military and law enforcement. They don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah, they don't want their robots weaponized.
Yes.
And they don't want to aid any allied companies that are weaponizing robots, which is really good and interesting because Boston Dynamics was originally, much of the funding came from the US military, but it's now owned by Hyundai.
Yeah, Hyundai actually.
Hyundai. Thank you.
No, Hyundai.
Hyundai.
Yeah.
Good.
You can just fix my spelling.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tor. Okay. Well, you've been... I got to do this with a straight face, don't I? You've been listening to OK Smartass, the podcast brought to you by a nerd and a smartass. No questioning who's who today. I'm Patrick Bonello. You can contact us by visiting our website at oksmartass.com or email nerds@oksmartass.com.
I'm Tor Roxburgh, and if you like getting suggestions for books, podcasts and viewing, you can find my newsletter via my Facebook and Instagram profiles. We'll see you again in the next episode. If you'd like to help the show, please tell a friend. That's the best thing you can do. Share a post online or take the next step and support us via Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/OKSmartass to sign up.
Thanks to our Patreon supporters and our listeners who get in touch. If you like what we do, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And again, please share with your friends.